The First World War was not the first war to be photographed. The Crimean War, the American Civil War, Boer War, and several others had already been captured on film. But the First World War was not only on an industrial scale, in terms of mass production of weapons, armies and killing, but also in its photography, both still images and moving pictures. All these pictures can tell a story of sacrifice, of horror, of unimagined destruction. But also they can capture man's humanity, his ingenuity and resilience. Amongst the many thousands, tens of thousands of images captured all over the world, several really stand out and speak to me. I guess I see these images through romantic glasses sometimes, but that's what images do, speak different things to different people. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Here are the first 5 images that speak to me. The first image is of British troops advancing through a gas cloud during the Battle of Loos in 1915. Gas warfare was only months old when Britain launched their first offensive with gas at Loos. The battle was preceded with the usual artillery bombardment and 140 long tons of chlorine gas. However, things started to go wrong very soon. The wind veered and blew a lot of gas back into the faces of the advancing troops. Many men had to take their gas masks off as their lenses became fogged up, and others simply couldn't breathe. Those who were forced to take off their gas masks soon succumbed to the toxic effects of the chlorine. Despite the gas, mines being blown under the German lines, and improved tactics, the German defenders managed to hold the Allied attacks. I can only imagine the fear the men must have experienced advancing towards the German guns through the yellow-green gas cloud. These men may well have heard reports of the effects of a gas attack and may have experienced one. To go over the top and face machine guns and shells is one thing. To do this whilst being enveloped in poison gas is on a whole nother level. This image of the spectral, ghost-like soldiers disappearing into the gas cloud looks like they are walking into hell itself. The Battle of Loos can be summed up by a callous remark made by General Rawlinson. He writes, "From what I can ascertain, some of the divisions did actually reach the enemy trenches, for their bodies can be seen on the barbed wire. By the end of the battle, the Allied casualties were over 59,000 dead, wounded and missing." The second image, for me, shows the members of the General Staff watching manoeuvres on Salisbury Plain. An early aircraft can be seen rumbling overhead. It looks underpowered, frail and very vulnerable. To the heads of the armed forces, aircraft before the war, and indeed at the start of the war, were seen as a bit of a novelty. If the army needed reconnaissance, they would use cavalry, as armies had for hundreds, if not thousands of years. During the early months of the war, when the German steamroller was thundering through Belgium and northern France, aircraft of the Royal Flying Corps spotted the German advance. A pilot in person reported to Sir John French, the Commander-in-Chief of the British Expeditionary Force, about what he had seen. This vital information did not seem to sink in with the Commander-in-Chief, but he was more interested in asking the pilot about his aircraft and what it could do. The First World War was instrumental in removing all thoughts of war being a romantic affair. The mud and blood of the trenches saw to that. This image shows the aircraft that would redefine warfare, on land as well as on the sea, and it contrasts starkly with the General Staff, who was still reliant on cavalry and still wore gaudy plumes in their hats. Image number 3 for me is on a more spiritual plane. I am unsure whether this image is staged. If you know, we'd love to know in the comments below. The image is of a German or Austro-Hungarian soldier lying dead in the foreground. All I can see when I look at this image is the shell burst. It is in the shape of a demon. Is it the devil himself coming for the soul of the dead soldier in the foreground? Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The trenches of the Western Front has often been called a hell on earth, with millions of men being killed. Where better then for the devil to ply his trade? The fourth image, for me, shows the real strength of humanity. No matter the uniform, the creed or the nationality, despite these men who had been trying to kill each other for years, having seen their friends cut down, having been away from their families for months. When the fighting is all over, the men can be kind, caring, and even offer each other a cigarette. The Tommy offering the light has been wounded. There is a Lewis gun and stretcher in the background. They are surrounded and been affected by total war. But there they are, in opposite armies, yet for a brief moment, brothers. The last image I first saw at the beginning of the BBC series 1914 to 1918, which was wonderfully narrated by Dame Judi Dench. For me, it encapsulates the comradeship that made the British Army what it was during the Great War. In this image, I see men from all walks of life, different jobs, different classes, men who would perhaps not even talk to each other in peacetime. Yet because of war, they had left their homes, been dragged into a nightmare of war, and through that war, had created bonds of friendship which only war could create, and sadly, war would break. The lines of Wilfred Owen writing home just before his death describe the scene perfectly. He writes, "Dearest mother, so thick is the smoke in this cellar that I can hardly see by a candle 12 inches away. And so thick are the inmates that I can hardly write for pokes, nudges and jolts. On my left, the company commander snores on a bench. It is a great life. I am more oblivious than the less, dear mother, of the ghastly glimmering of the guns outside, and the hollow crashing of the shells. I hope you are as warm as I am, soothed in your room as I am here. I am certain you could not be visited by a band of friends half so fine as surround me here. There is no danger down here, or if any, it will be well over before you read these lines." If you have enjoyed these images or been moved by them, we would love to know. Please drop us a comment in the box below. As always, if you are enjoying our videos, it would mean a lot if you gave us a like and a subscribe. Your support is gratefully received. Thanks for watching.